Good morning. This is Mike Tillotson at the County Courthouse. I hope you enjoy today's program. Get this thing
Well,
rolling.
very good, thanks, Mike. But, where's everybody today?
It's early.
Summer. And it's summer. I had a pretty good crowd in Scottville yesterday, a big crowd in Scottville. Had a nice crowd up in Sutton's Bay on
What's
Monday.
big crowd? 6?
No, there was 10 or 12 yesterday in
Okay.
Scottville, which is pretty good because we started at 8 o'clock yesterday in Scottville. But we had 23 or so up in Sutton's Bay, which was good for summertime. And it was a good group. We had a group of students come through, which was kind of fun. We could talk about government, and they were summer school students, so I spent a half hour with them, and that was always fun to hear the interesting comments that, you know, have you ever met Mr. Trump? And what's it like to sit near Donald Trump? No, I'm sorry, this is state, folks. I don't know if I'll ever sit next to Donald Trump, but, well, hey, thank you. We'll just get started, and hopefully we'll track through, and we'll answer the questions. As you know, it's summer break. But we did get everything signed by the governor on the budget, so the budget is put to bed, signed, sealed, and delivered the way we voted it through. He didn't line item veto anything, which was good. The education piece, I think, is very strong with our local schools getting $240 per student and an extra $100 million in our professional trades, which worked very closely with the governor on. I mean, and it's only scratching the surface of where we need to go with professional trades. But if we don't start moving in the right direction quickly, we're going to continue to fall back. And as I always say, if you're looking at in the room here, we're aging. And it's always concerning when we don't have young people that want to continue to live in the district. And we have great job opportunities. And we've got to figure out a way to stop the leaching from the north to having these kids go to larger cities and into other areas, because we're going to run out of people that are going to be able to service us for our needs. And it'll work all the way up the line from nursing home care to plumbing to electricians and everything else. Good morning. Good. So. With that, that's kind of where we're at. Summertime, we're all out campaigning hard, as everybody knows. You see all the signs, and our life is consumed with knocking doors and
Raising
late
money.
nights, raising money. That's always a fun piece of the tool of running for office. But you know what? We're working hard out there and still trying to make sure that we take care of the district's needs that we need. Continue to fight with Lara, and when I say fight, it's very interesting, and we have a case that we're working with Lara right here in Manistee County with the new church that has been trying to get their occupancy license for umpteen days now. And what's really interesting is Lara will put it in a stack in the wait to the last day, and then they'll pull it out of the stack unless you prod them. Well, we've been prodding them, and finally they pulled it out and they go, oh, we're missing a piece of information, which, at least we caught it early. But
And what's
still,
Laura?
Laura is the Office of Licensing Regulations.
Okay.
So it's just, always frustrating that we've got to, wait until the last minute to get something done, and then you put these, then all of a sudden you get an instance like this that they missed something, and then you go back and then it's like an extra 30 days, and that's a problem. I mean, we got to start getting better at that. So been working with them, trying to get answers on that. Same thing with the DNR on some issues that we've had there with new business coming in, and the DNR won't give them a terminal to sell licenses. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, you got a brand new sports shop, and now why are we, this is against what we're trying to do to grow business in the state. So it's amazing what we do, but it continues to be what we need to do. But I appreciate appreciate the patience and that. So I'll just throw it out for questions and answers. We got this part for you. I will work on that. Do I have your contact information?
On the,
All right, on this front one, okay, very good. Very good.
Kurt, on a positive note with the DNR, the contact that I have, Tim Miller, I think, but I'd have to look to confirm that. Before the email finally hits its screen, I swear, it's ridiculous the response time I'm getting out of him.
Good.
It's been exceptional, it really has. I'm not likely to throw out compliments unless it's, but I certainly appreciate his efforts.
Well, and you know, when we reached out.
Or Mark Miller, actually, is the name.
Mark, yeah, I've dealt with Mark. What's very interesting in this case came up, I was knocking doors. And went in, I said, "Break your sports shop, I haven't seen this one." Went in and talked to the owner, and I said, "How are things going?" And he told me who I was, and he goes, "Well, I just got denied my license, or my application, because of," you know, and I said, "What? That doesn't sound right." So then we called and then even she said the same thing. She goes, "We goofed something up because we don't turn anybody down because we want to sell licenses, you know. And here's this person in this small." So now once the red tape and they mark, it's trying to reverse everything. So we'll get it there, but it's just what happens. So, but overall, the department's been good to work with. We've got some concerns with the new deer hunting regulations proposed regulations I'm a little nervous about, but we're working through those bugs and we'll see where that ends up. What else we got?
Do you want to address the question I asked you before we started?
Which one?
I'm going to ask you one about the agreement that was made between you and Ray France.
Well, there was no agreement made between Ray and I, so I know that he's been putting that out there for whatever reason, but that was never discussed.
Yeah, because I told the person I was discussing this with that, said, no, the politicians don't make those kind of agreements, you know.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's really not worth commenting on. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that somebody wants to throw out there, that's fine.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, because the person I told you before who it is, she and I really argue.
Yeah, well, you gotta be peaceful there, brother,
Yeah.
so.
A little bit of information's been going on the radio. Haven't seen it elsewhere, dealing with a report made by the State Department of Education, I believe,
Yes.
on special education compliance. And when I was listening yesterday, the radio host stated the facts for Manistee Public Schools and Ludington Public School, which were totally above the averages, and it seems the state has put out information that's lumping all special education programs into the unfunctional area.
Okay. I have not heard that, but, on that special ed part, but I'll find out. In lumping, that we're above average then in the.
Way above average in
Okay.
those two communities.
Okay.
It's the local station, or what are those? Call letters, Mike, for the local.
WTCM.
Yeah.
WTCM is Traverse City, I think.
Okay, well, I'll find out about
That would be
that.
Traverse, it's the Manistee Ludington one.
WKLA, I think, is Ludington. WMTE.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but we'll find out.
If we don't have to mention about the media, maybe it's, you know.
Well, yeah, but it's good to know. I mean, we'll find out. If it is, we'll dig into how they're reporting, because that seems a little odd. That would be two counties right here and above the average. And then there's a reason we need to find out and get it fixed. What else we got? Quiet room today.
Well, what's your opinion of the social studies curriculum that's under controversy right now?
Sorry, am I hearing you? great question, so.
What is your opinion of the social studies curriculum that's under controversy?
Well, it's, you know what, that's an interesting topic. But, I do believe that we need to teach American history, and we need to teach correct history. So if it's not in there and they're trying to eliminate that part and teach something different, that's a shame. And I know that it hasn't been voted on or approved on our end yet. So I know that I was at a meeting last week that discussed some of that and actually had a person there that stated that their grandchild goes to school in Mexico and they have better social studies and American history than what we do. So now I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a concern. I mean, we need to make sure that you know, everything is accurate and it's being taught properly. So it's pretty interesting when you hear some of those things, and I have not read what they're trying to teach yet. So, but I do understand that it's under some pretty heavy scrutiny. So I would say that it will be corrected.
But
And it's pretty hotly contested right now, so I know it will be corrected, so,
Assume so.
yeah. Got a question for me? Or are you just here to enjoy it?
I was here to enjoy, but I'll throw something out there. So, is there any talk of any kind of extra support or anything for the farmers that could be a result of the tariffs that are supposed to be enacted?
Actually, yesterday, well, I shouldn't say yesterday, this morning on the news, I see that President Trump enacted a $12 billion,
Okay.
so to help them through until we get this tariff situation corrected. It will be corrected. Talking to the farmers, that was their concern, the short term. But they agreed in the long term that it needed to be done because there is some, and I'll give you an example that, you know, we're a pretty big cherry area in Mason County. And right now, every pound of cherries that goes into the foreign market in Europe gets taxed a tariff of 42 cents a pound. Zero coming into America of their fruit. And as these markets start to develop that, they just basically have taken the Americans right out of being able to produce certain items. As the world producer of food, you get, you know, I think we can remember, I was an old grocer, so I'm gonna go back into some history real quick. But we remember, God, it's gonna be 30 years ago when Chile started producing grapes, seedless grapes. Remember, we only used to get a short season of seedless grapes from California. Well, then Chile, because they have the perfect climate, developed a market of Chilean grapes, and now if you look, they've really taken the market. But if they're coming in with zero tariff or zero charge, and our product going in because of the trade agreements we've made are being put in place, like the cherry situation, we're gonna run our local business, our state, our federal farmers right out of business. So we've gotta get it fixed.
I agree with that.
And they are gonna throw a fit. It's the same thing with the aluminum and the iron that they're doing. However, talking to some of the automakers through this, they said, you know what, in the long run, it's gonna be right. In the short term, it's painful for us, but it's the right thing for the right reasons to keep us moving where we need to go. So I believe they'll get it fixed. But they did, 12 billion was what was put in place. And the comment that we had with a farmer last night, because we heard about it last night about 10 o'clock, is how much of that will go into administrative costs. That was the farmer's first concern, because of course they want more, they want it to go to the farmer and not, but we're moving in the right direction, so.
I grew up at a cherry farm. Well, we had cows and cherries, but anyway, my dad got 4.6 cents a pound. I don't know what do farmers get now?
I have no idea. For cherries?
Yeah, red tart.
Oh, man, I don't know.
But how can you be tariffed 42 cents when it's not even worth that much?
Well, it's pretty high what they get paid. I don't know. All I know is that's what they're being charged.
But then again, who was in charge when that agreement came down the pike? It sounds,
Can't tell you
oh, let me guess.
that. I don't know, and I'm not gonna comment that that's what it was, but I just know that we've had some things go wrong in
Yeah.
what we've done for years, so. And I know that Senator Boer was in Canada a week ago working on some of the stuff that, from Canada coming into Michigan, so. Because there's a lot of, crossing the bridge and things like that, so, same thing.
On the Medicaid work requirements, has it been figured out how much is going to go into the administration of keeping track of the work requirements?
How many dollars? Not that I'm aware of. We're a ways away, it's 2 years away before it goes into effect, 2020.
Okay,
So there's a lot of things that are getting worked out on that. We'll see there's definitely gonna be costs. You just gotta monitor that, but, I still agree that it's the right thing to do. But we're a quiet group, normally I'm not used to this, but I'm usually good. Quick.
I was expecting coffee to be in here, it was coffee hour after all.
It says coffee
Well,
hour.
I will tell you this, line 5, a quick update on line 5, because that's always an item that we have a discussion. It looks like we're moving forward to we finally, the DEQ approved all what I'm gonna call the supports after 2 years, which is, to me, unfathomable that we can have our department hold off on making something more secure to the bottom. They're gonna make it a no anchor zone, and the studies are coming back. It's probably gonna be some type of encapsulated tunnel in the future, the way that I'm starting to read how things are being proposed through the engineers and everything else to make that safe, but I would say that we're looking at 7 years probably before it can be all completed. Might be able to be done before that, but somewhere in there, but these anchor points will be a big piece that should have been done before. And we sit and scream about this, and our own state is held off on granting a permit. And this is the issue that we discussed last time with DEQ that continues to be a hindrance. I was at a meeting the other night, the same thing on the bridge. All the new bridge requirements are costing counties and townships considerable amount of money because they're trying to eliminate culvert and go bank to bank, which is expensive.
And there's a lot of bridges that are replaced with wood structures, or culverts with wood structures in places, and it's romantic to look at, but the life
it's beautiful.
expectancy, I would think, would be nowhere near in comparison.
No, and you spend this money into those permits and all those studies, and then you redo them, and, we talk about a burden on the taxpayer, and that's a concern. Beauty is all about, we've got 2 projects getting ready to get started here in Manistee County that, will be very interested how we, work the M55 bridge. Then we have
Cooley Bridge.
then there's the other one that's up by Irons, right?
Yeah, the Red Bridge is under
Yeah.
construction now.
But there's another one because I've got a hearing on
No,
it.
that's not Irons, that's,
I'm trying to think, it's next week Tuesday, I'm trying to think of the name of that bridge, but, they're gonna, it's not Irons, but it's,
Cooley Cooley's on 55, that's a big one that's getting redone.
And then
They're
the other one
rerouting
right here.
traffic for
Right.
that.
That's the one that's being rerouted, what's the
Correct.
grocery store?
Dublin.
Dublin, that's the one. And there's a hearing on that next week, public hearing on that. A little bit of a, we need to do it, it's gotta get done, but is this the proper way to route people through so, I mean, we gotta work the bugs out, but same thing, we at least got that meeting moved up, but so that we could, if we need to address and something comes through the public hearing, we've got some time to figure it out instead of do a public hearing and start the project the following week. There's a concern, so. So we're moving, we've got a lot of projects going on the roads, we see them all over the place now. I mean, the roads are getting tore up and worked on, and, as I've always stated, while we're doing that, are we really laying the infrastructure for the future to make sure that we don't rip those roads back up again or road right away? So we need to be ahead of the curve on that, and if it costs us a few bucks in the beginning to make sure that we get it done, we need to get it done so that we're not re-ripping it up and then costing us 3 times as much. Some good news on broadband for rural districts. We've been working with a company up in Leelanau County that is looking at doing a satellite-based internet. Price is considerably cheaper than what's out there now for a rural district, and it will stream up to three pieces in a home. So you could have 3 computers running, streaming at the same time, and it won't buffer and shift out. So Leelanau County is looking at that.
At how many bits per second
You know what, it's huge compared to what
they have currently?
DSL.
And what's very interesting in the meeting that we were at earlier this week is that the UP has already been moving through this with the college, and it's done through that. The price, you can buy a couple different levels, but what's really nice about it is there's some grant dollars from the federal government, but actually anybody can sign up for this internet, but they have to take some educational classes along with that. And what's really nice is that for like a senior citizen, they can actually do classes on there because it's mandatory to get it at that price. But they're doing classes on, how to protect yourself from identity theft, things that are actually geared for the individuals that aren't in school anymore, but we already know what identity theft is out there. And one of the biggest things that I talked to the sheriff in Leelanau County is how they prey on the elderly and how they find that information out. And then they get in there and they work them over on the phone, and then all it takes is, one situation, and they give out, social security number or a bank account number, and the next thing it's done. And we're going through a little of that in my family. My father's starting, he's aging a little bit, dementia, and we had to take away, his credit cards and things like that because somebody would call and he goes, oh my God. And so we can't let him have that because he'll just give the number they call, and that, my mother gets pretty nervous about that, so that's what we did. But even though we put protections in, you just don't want to get that information out there. So really, I believe that's a positive. I really think that's how we're going to have to move in our rural districts, because financially there's no way to run fiber, or cable. I'm going to say you just can't. I mean, you can't go down the street for 2 miles for one person. It just financially you can't. But we know what that's going to do to the growth of our rural districts, and if we're not moving quickly on that, we're going to lose out. So I'm pretty excited that opportunity, it looks like it's working, and we'll hopefully have it. Leelanau County will be one of the first to jump on it, and we'll see how that works, because it'll be a great tester because of all the elevation and the way that county is set up. And what they're working with is all the private and public groups, like, the power companies, and then, we're using dual towers, so we're not whipping towers up all over. so it'll be pretty interesting.
So if it does work in Leland, if it does work in Leland well enough, is there a timetable for our housing that's gonna be accessible to everyone else?
No, I would hate to put that on there, but they hope to have the full UP done, by the end of 2019. And if they can get the whole UP done, that's, you know, I worry from here up, because, you know, we get to the south, but, you know, we know what happens to ours when we go 30 miles to the east. We don't get very good cell service, and you get into some of those areas, and the only way to get cable or internet there is gonna be satellite.
So are you talking something like HughesNet, similar to that, that's individual for the house? So the person in that house would purchase that for their satellite?
That's correct,
Okay.
but the cost is about half of what Hughes is.
Okay.
I think Hughes is, somebody told me yesterday that they're on Hughes. They're paying $107 a month. And we're being quoted or told that this price is gonna be somewhere in the very low $60 a month, so, and to be able to stream, you know, up to 3 units, that will be quite an advantage. And one of the ladies I talked to that was struggling with this said, yeah, we have a campsite up in a campground somewhere in the middle of the UP. And what's really sad is I get better cell service there now, and I have better internet than I do where I live now. So, pretty interesting for them, so.
You were talking about M55. When is the proposed shutdown? When will be back on? And then how far will I go to Cadillac quite a bit. How much extra mileage am I gonna have?
So I couldn't tell you the
Jeff-
exact on that.
It's 2020 is the projection of the shutdown, and I couldn't tell you what month, but they're looking at about 7 months in length. And the route's gonna be going around
Through,
through southern part of, southern Manistee Lake, Stronach Road.
you're either gonna be able to access it through Brethren and come back down, or, right?
Well,
For people coming to the north.
if they wanna go to the north, yeah, obviously. But the actual 55 detour,
Right.
they're gonna redo the road surface down Stronach and around southern part of Manistee Lake there by PCA and then up.
So how long will that add to my commute? 20 minutes?
15 minutes?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, now I can go
It depends
60,
where you're going and where you're coming from.
Cadillac, Manistee.
I would say maybe if you're going to the city of Manistee and you're coming down 55, it might add an extra 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's not so
You
bad.
know, it depends, because, it's,
Could be, depends on traffic and everything else that gets.
Well, the speed limit on
Pretty busy.
55 now is 65. Boy, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
As soon as you get out, well, before the
I'm on
prison.
37.
not to the south. It's good up to the north, but
Yeah.
I gotta run. We'll see
No,
you.
thanks, brother. See you. Have a good one.
Question, kind of dealing with what you spoke on with fraud and telemarketers and all of these types of things. Quite recently, I do believe in our area, we're receiving phone calls from local Manistee numbers
Yes.
that are not local Manistee people. Any action on any of those types of problems in the legislature?
All I know is that it's become a real problem in the last couple months. And I mean, we're getting calls and you always think, oh, it's Manistee, I'll answer it. And now, of course, I let them go to voicemail and they never leave voicemail. And there's no way to get off these, but I can't really give you a great answer on that other than we're trying to figure out how in the world they're making the telemarketers as the computer systems get better and they figure out how to do this. We've got to be able to block certain things, and right now I can't tell you how we're going to do that legislatively.
It really ties into the package that I presented
Yeah.
you with this morning, under the broad title of elder abuse. It's rampant around here.
Yeah, well, it's everywhere. I get them all the time. And my wife gets them all the time. I had another person call me not that long ago and says, how can we stop this? And there's gotta be a way. But I'm assuming that this is broader than the state of Michigan. This is gonna be a
More
national
likely.
in how we deal with that, and stop some of this. It's just like the do not call list that, you know, anybody can be on it now, but they've worked ways around the do not call list and still illegal, and, it's a problem.
Yes, it is. And on that same note, with the cable, internet, television, phone, the people who live in Century Terrace in Manistee on 6th Avenue have recently been hit with a huge increase from Spectrum Charter Communications. I inquired into that with the Housing Commission, and they say they collect the money, but the Housing Commission does not get any of that money. It goes to the cable company. It seems way out of place. I mean, their bills have almost doubled, maybe even more,
Right.
on the basic fee that's tied into their rent. Plus, they pay a cable bill on top of that. It's $72.70 or $72 a month just to be hooked up now.
Is that cable and phone then? Because phone's probably included in
It's all
that?
one system.
Yeah, 19. Yeah, I guess we could look into it, if you can get me a copy of that. I would, we can certainly make a phone call and at least find out what's happening there. But that's the other part is there's not a lot of competition, and, the cable companies, as we see, everywhere you go, we used to have cable in some of the other areas, and they couldn't make any money, and they just sell it to somebody else, and
I do believe that last year, that fee was $30 a month just to be able to tie into the system in the building. Now it's $70. And it shows up right on the billing, so I could get you that, which
Yeah.
has the information on it.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, if we'd look at it for you and make some calls and at least get you some information.
And to me, it's just interesting that this basically was intended to be a senior housing development, but it wasn't properly done. And now they have a lot of young people in that building, but they're basically people on very limited incomes. And I'm with that company, and they have not done that to me,
Right.
but they did to those people.
Well, we'd be glad to investigate that for you.
Thank you.
I don't know if it does any good, but I get these calls and it sounds like they're from Philippines or something. And I say, okay, stop, hold it, stop. Listen, stop, listen to me.
They hang up.
Do not call, ever. Do not ever call me again. And then the line goes down, but they're talking, you can hardly understand them. And I don't know where they're from, the Philippines or Jamaica or something, but
All of those places.
I can say that's, even when I was in California last year, that was happening there too. But they did arrest a guy in Florida and charged him with some hefty fines and a jail sentence for being part of that. I'm sure there's a whole lot more of them, but I just read about that less than a year ago. He got hammered with some charges. So, I mean, even the federal government's looking into it, but, you said it's kind of hard to control when you don't know where it's coming from.
Well, they change in all these hubs all the time, and that's the craziness about it, so that you're chasing, you never, they locate out of it, and, they'll run a month, and then they shut it down, and they could go 3 blocks away and start another one, and these people are way more tacky than Kurt Vanderwall could ever be. I barely can make that thing work, so.
And they have a lot of money.
Well, they make a lot of money.
Yeah, and, big problem.
Yeah.
But happy to hear that at least some discussions take place on these issues, perhaps near impossible to deal with.
Right.
Appreciated.
So you touched about or touched on the deer restrictions with DNR earlier. That one confused me a good bit because we did that thing last season where we had okay, we're gonna open up the hunt season a little bit longer, try to make sure the wasting disease is gone. But then we put in a restriction on some of the hunting techniques. So we're just going to spread the wasting disease because we didn't even kill half of what we're supposed to kill during the hunting season.
Right, this is my feeling in a nutshell, is that we're making a blanket policy for, gonna be the state eventually, but 13 counties now. We don't know enough information about it. As I talk with the DNR and I say to them, I said, here's my concern. We've got one of the greatest tools in the world. Everybody carries one, or has access to one. They said our tags that we have a barcode on them already. All you need to do is have an access point inside a system through the DNR. You shoot an animal, the hunter snaps the barcode, fills out the sheet of, I just took a doe, let's just say a doe, area 53, or DU unit 53, the time, and it's shipped in. They've got all your information. Now we know exactly what was taken. Same thing with a buck. You shoot a buck and you get this. We can start tracking how many deer are being shot in certain areas where we allow doe permits to be used. We're trying to increase around Montcalm County is where we found chronic wasting disease. It's a disease that once it's in the animal, to be honest with you, it's there. It might have been there for a period of time. We've had a few cases, but we're not doing any testing of these animals. We're going to open up a season and just basically take deer out. Their rifle season is going to become basically from the second week of October until January. It just becomes a problem that we're putting bow hunters in the woods and rifle hunters in the same woods, one wearing camo, one not. We're not testing these animals, and we're not saying, okay, if you live in anything that touches this danger zone county, it's mandatory testing and check-in on an animal, because we're not going to know unless we test it. And then we can start seeing, okay, if we've taken, let's say we take 100,000 deer from this 5-county radius. If our percentage grows and all of a sudden we're finding that it's still tight, we can continue to work on that. But you're never going to eliminate it 100%. We saw that in Wisconsin. And what they did is they devastated their deer herd and crushed certain counties that now there's just no deer there. There's no economic base. I start worrying about what happens to our brethrens and our Calavas and, our far east that has all the state land. They survive off the people that come and rent their cabins, and if we decimate the herd and we don't have proper testing and really learn how many animals we're taking, we're just shooting into the sky because you're not getting the information we need. Right. And I said, come on, if we're going to do it, let's not just blow this thing up. Let's say, okay, this year this is what it's going to be, folks. We're going to unlimit it in these 5 counties. We've got to have testing. We need to know how many animals you shot, exactly where it was, and we can start tracking to really see if this footprint is, chronic wasting is moving, or if we do it, we hardly have any more increase, even though we've increased the deer testing dramatically. If we've got a serious problem, it should increase this DWD. But statewide, we should be, I think, every one of us knows that we can drive around certain areas and see hundreds of deer out in the field all the time. I mean, we see them all the time.
Second and Oak.
Yeah, well, you guys see them right in the city, and we see them in Lovington the same way. I mean, right where I live. I mean, I've got one of the greatest bucks I've ever seen in my life here 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, man, would that be nice? But, we do very little reporting and testing on that, and that concerns, oh man. What's going on?
Hey, Kurt.
How are you?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Things going good?
things going well.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
We were just talking about how bad the police are.
Oh, is that right?
We were-
Oh, the city. Yeah.
They can see if you want.
Oh, no, I gotta go.
All right.
I just want to say hi to you.
Well, thank you for saying hello. See you later. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. So, thank you. So that's really, you know, what my bugaboo is on our deer hunting is that we make decisions, but we don't put all the tools to be knowledgeable about what we're doing. It's the same thing in how we allocate a doe tag. I mean, I said, how in the world do you allocate a doe tag? How do you make that decision? Well, you know, just by what's, let's spend some money, let's get proper, you know, data, and let's make it right, because if we're the deer herd, we need to make sure it's in balance, but we also need to make sure it's healthy, because it is a huge economic piece to the state of Michigan overall. And if we end up getting fewer and fewer hunters, it continues to be the other piece, which is gonna be more and more car deer accidents. I mean, we see them all the time. If you drive right now, like Mike says, over to Cadillac, I can just only imagine what I'm gonna see today as I head that direction. In there fresh, if you drive it every day, you go, oh, that one wasn't there yet. And we all see it. You get it at a certain time of night when they start moving. So we just gotta be better at what we do. So that's my bugaboo with the department, and we've been working on making sure that we put proper procedures in so we're more knowledgeable, that we're just not willy-nilly numbers out of the sky.
With Farm Bureau Insurance, we had 4 deer accidents last week, so.
Yeah.
Fair local.
Yeah. Yes.
Back to the roads.
Yeah.
How, I know you've allocated, as the state allocated funds toward the major highways. How much has been allocated to the cities? I have children in Albion and Jackson, and those roads are, I think Manistee roads are bad, but down there, they're just
Here's how it works, is there's a Public Act 51, which is it's an unbelievable formulated piece of how money is put to the roads. But all this money that's been allocated goes through PA 51. And PA 51 allocates the proper amount of money to the cities, to the townships, and to the state highways through this, and it can't be altered. And that's what's nice about this, is that extra $170 million that we allocated for the whole state earlier this year that we talked about. If I remember my number right, and I can't tell you exactly, but I'm gonna be very close. I believe the city of Manistee received about $14,000. The whole county, between the townships and the county, received a little over $40,000. So about $53,000 came to Manistee County for that whole package. But it's all divvied through Public Act 51. And what's concerning is that the southern part of our state, and you're probably aware of this, the southern part of the state would love to reopen Public Act 51, which would really, really, really hurt us here in the north. And we have, I think in Ludington and Mason County, we have 819 miles of paved road through the county. We have not that much farther short in dirt roads. They take maintenance too. And what they want to do is open that up and say, well, if we got a 3-lane highway, we should get 3 times the amount. And then, you know, you start taking rural Michigan, you don't get the same dollar for an unpaved road, but you still, under the act, we get money. And you want to talk about being nervous about what could happen if they started cutting that, because then our monies are going to go into the asphalt and we'll let our dirt roads go. And what will happen with the dirt roads is that you'll start seeing, if you see when they don't work on them, we'll lose that crown out of the middle. And then all of a sudden it turns into a washboard, it starts holding water, and then you've got a major issue, and then you've got car problems that are beating itself. But that's how we've got to really work hard to protect Public Act 51, and it's all about relationships. You can sit there and people will talk about it, and then you sit down and say, let me walk you through my district a minute. And I want you to tell me how we're gonna handle this, and then they go, wow, I never thought about that. Because they don't, they live in the city, they think we need
Yeah.
more money. And so, everybody got equal their fair share out of this public act. And,
But it wasn't very much.
well, they've gotten quite a bit when you look at what we gave out this year. We it was 600 million, now an extra, which for our county was, I think Manistee County received almost $700,000, and then we gave them another 60 or 50, somewhere in there. So I mean,
Okay.
you know, that's $750,000 that, you know, if you think about that, we got 83 counties. You start figuring out what that becomes, that, you know, real money. But you know what it costs a boatload to do a mile. I think the number, and maybe you know the number, but I think it's like $45,000 a mile.
Wow.
To do asphalt and do it right. And that's why I say if we spend the money up front, get what's up, because the minute you dig it in there again, you start breaking it apart, you cut the life. So let's be forward thinking, if we're gonna run fiber optic someday, why aren't we putting conduit underneath there so you can tap into it? Or the PVC pipe so we can run that line through there instead of digging up the right of way again and damaging the road. I mean, we all see it, we see a fresh cutout in a, you know, and you think, now granted, sometimes it has to be done, but if we would have thought about that beforehand,
Yeah.
you know, we just gotta be better at that, because it all costs us in the long run. And sometimes they, oh, no big deal. Well, 25 years from now, it's not gonna be 45 grand. It's gonna be, you know.
100.
Yeah. And so we gotta be much better in our thought process of how we look to the future of making sure we take care of us, because we can't all just dig into the wallet every time and get it done. And then we waited so long, and we look at some of the roads and how bad they are, because we way, you know,
Way beyond.
way beyond. And we didn't have money. You know, we didn't. We were, but also, you know, we've grown the economy, and we've been able to do these things with the system that we've got. And the biggest thing is that I don't want to come to you and say, okay, we're gonna raise the gas tax another 16 cents, or your registration fee $45 more. I mean, there is a point where we've got to be fiscally responsible. And if we do the right things and we grow business, everybody puts in because business is going, and we just can't keep going to the well. That's my concern, is that we always think that that's an endless well, and you know what, I think we're all kind of at that point where, because you live in a house that you want to be able to paint or put vinyl siding on, you gotta replace a roof, you gotta replace things, the carpet, you know, if we keep taking the money out of that, you know, we don't want to let our homes, that's our value,
Sure.
that's our equity, so.
Biggest asset.
Yep, so it's all part of the business factor in our tax base, that we gotta be very careful that we just don't keep raising it. And then, of course, auto insurance that
Every governor candidate,
Let's talk about that.
let's talk about it.
every governor candidate says they can fix the auto insurance. What's the future?
Good.
The future is that we had a pretty good piece here earlier this year. And I think the gentleman from Farm Bureau probably agree with us that was a pretty good piece that we fell about 5 votes short on.
Yep.
And I think right now, I will tell you this, the majority of the people that I'm talking to said we messed up. And I said, no, not we, you. Because if you would have voted, it would have been 4 people. And if you would have come, we probably would have grabbed somebody else, and then it would have been 3, and we could have gotten this thing done. It gave levels, and I know people get worried about that, but you know what? We all have many other options of health insurance that we've got. And we're double taxing certain people. If you're a senior citizen and you already have Medicaid, why in the world are we double taxing you for another piece of insurance when you've got it? And all our Medicaid dollars from the state that we're paying into the taxes in the federal government, that they allocate for folks that have automobile accidents in every other state around us, we get zero. Because they say, you got auto no fault, we're not paying into that. We still pay it, but we're not getting it. And that's a problem. And we had levels. I would have stayed with unlimited because I'm a motorcycle rider. And I would not take that chance because, and I'm just gonna say, let's just say Mike, I'm gonna pick on Mike. Mike decided that I don't need unlimited coverage, I'm only gonna cover myself at $250. Well, if Mike hit me on my motorcycle, $250,000 is probably not gonna fix me. But if I had unlimited, and that was part of one of the amendments, and I was really proud of that we worked with the insurance companies, that if somebody else chooses a lower rate, if I have unlimited, then we'll use up his $250, and then it'll go back to my policy to cover me for the future. And I thought, man, that great opportunity for people that also, so we had that in there. Then we had the protection for the salespeople, because the first thing that's gonna happen if somebody comes in and says, I don't want that unlimited, I can save this much money and I'm gonna take that chance, and then the minute they get in an accident, they go to the insurance agent and says, he forced me to buy $250. And this would cover the insurance salesman. Then it also was another piece in my amendment that said to the senior citizen, we explained these 3 bullet points. If you're gonna opt out of this level, do you understand what this does? And it gave protections to the senior, the agent, and the motorcycle. And we brought it to 5 votes. And what a shame that we didn't get it done. I think we lost 17 Republicans and we lost 41 of the 43 Democrats voted against the bill. And it failed. And that's a bummer. But you know what? I think that if we were to go back at it today, because I know what it was when we left Lansing, because people had started knocking doors. And I will tell you, I knock a lot of doors every day. And my goal normally, I like to hit 100 to 150 doors if I can possibly do it. If I don't hear it 100 times a day about auto insurance, I don't hear it once.
Here
People
too.
go crazy right now because it's killing them. I mean, we did a debate last night in Ludington. People moved in from Chicago. They said, you know, I love my property taxes, everything here in the state of Michigan, but man, this auto insurance is killing me. And I said, you're right. It is. But you know what? We continue. We talked about it. 23% of Mason County or Manistee County right now driving uninsured. You go into the southern part, Detroit, everywhere else, and you're over 50. And that means you, me, pay. And that's wrong. Fraud's rampant. But, long story short, there's too much pressure, which makes me happy that we can get something done. We've got to have a fee schedule that's got to be in for the hospitals. That goes with it. They cannot be unlimited. They cannot charge 10 times the amount just because somebody's been in an accident.
That's one of the biggest problems there.
Oh yeah, there's no question. I mean, your first question when you go to a hospital, and I don't know who's been into one lately that had cut their hand or did anything else. The first time you go in, one of the first questions they're gonna ask you, besides your name and your address, did this happen in your vehicle? Probably the first thing they're gonna ask besides your identification stuff. Because the minute you say, well, yeah, it happened, they put a check in there, and the fee can go anything they want, and it's not gonna go to what they have on Medicaid, Medicare, or work comp, or, yeah, it's,
Well, it's reasonable and customary, but who defines that?
we already know what that is. You know, we took the top 23 what they call codes for automobile accident, that if you get in an accident, what you've got to have done, an MRI and all this stuff. Under normal insurance, cost is $4,300 for the top 23. Same thing in automobile. Now, this was in Grand Rapids, not Manistee, was almost $12,000.
Oh
And
my
then if
God.
you got into Lansing, it was near 17, and if you got into Detroit, it was considerably higher than that. But even if you take 43 and you times it by 3, we're 3 times higher what we're paying under our automobile, and we're all paying for that.
Yeah,
And those things can't continue. I mean, it would have saved most everybody in this room, probably not you and I, because we're younger, but anybody that a little bit older that had other coverage, it would have saved them 40%. There's certain part that we can't ever change, and we've got to understand that hello there.
Hi,
Boy, we're just finishing up.
I figured that, but I wanted to go to Mass instead.
Well, that's very good, I'm glad you did it. But the thing that, you know, it's amazing on those pieces of the auto insurance is that our cars are brains now. Anytime you're in an accident with a motor vehicle now, and you've got a newer vehicle, you've always got a computer issue. If you set an airbag off, I mean, it's the cost. I mean, look back, 40 years ago, cost of a car, if you ever hit 20 grand, you were in the most expensive car. You can't even buy the Econo car anymore for basically 25, 30, and I'm probably wrong on that, but, because I haven't bought one in a while, but, I would say the average cost of a motor vehicle now for us to drive is probably, if you bought a brand new one's is it over 40?
It's in the 30s,
In 30, upper 30s?
mid to upper, yeah.
Okay, so, compared to what at the old, so that, the comprehensive piece, we can't stop that. That's gonna be dictated by what we continue to purchase and the cost of the vehicle, but auto insurance is a major issue, and if we don't fix it, it's gonna crush us. And we talk about going back to full tort, and I think people would be devastated if we went back to full tort. And I have a friend of mine that sells insurance in Sugar Grove, Illinois, and he made the statement to me, called him about auto no fault and tort, and he goes, we need tort reform, we're getting sued all the time now. And he says, our costs are starting to jump dramatically because of all the lawsuits, and we're affecting the less fortunate because they can't live without a vehicle. So an insurance company just drags it on and finally people settle. And we can't have that. But I said to him, I said, would you trade for auto no fault? He goes, are you kidding me? But he says, I would if you put a limit in a heartbeat. So I know we're on the right track. I know we're gonna get it done. I hope that what package we put out, if it's this fall, is very similar to what we had earlier this year, because I really felt I felt we needed be a little stronger on the fraud piece. I had asked for that, but they said, you're gonna blow this thing up, we gotta start here. I do believe we're close, but fraud is a major problem too.
Is there anything in there about, or will there possibly be anything in there about mandating a different way of making sure these people have insurance?
Well,
can't punish them.
I disagree with that.
You can take the driving privileges away.
It's a privilege to drive. Here's what I asked. I said, we're gonna be able to put driverless cars on the road. And let's pick a number. I think it's gonna be close to this, probably 5 years, that we'll have fully automated, because we're close now. An insurance company, if a person comes in and buys insurance, they get their policy. 30 days later, they call up the insurance company and say, hey, I don't want my insurance, I'm canceling my insurance. So the insurance company, at that point in time, refunds them their money because if they paid it, or if they pay month by month, they cancel it. Then they'd send a letter to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan Secretary of State, with the updates that we're doing, are gonna be able to implement that into the system by the next day. My feeling is that we can have driverless vehicles. We can have a license plate that's green when you have insurance on your license. And if you cancel it, boink, it goes red.
Absolutely.
And now we know. And I had people just about lynch me down there. They said, you can't take away that privilege. I said, whoa, whoa. Or that right. I said, you can't take that. I said, wait a minute, they're putting me in danger. They're uninsured, they're costing me money. I don't think that's what it is. So that's one thing that I would like to see us do is implement. The other part is we can track now through the new system that when somebody comes in, because what they'll do is they'll come in, they'll jump to one, because we got insurance companies all over the world, the state. They'll jump in, buy it, cancel it a month later, because now they got the registration in their tab. So that their tab will show correct. But then the following year, when it goes to expire again, they go to a different insurance agent and they start all over. And they do the same thing. But what we've got in the system now is say, you have a chronic problem. You cancel after 30 days, we're not gonna give you a new plate or a new tab unless you prepay for X amount of months. It's the only way we're gonna stop the fraud piece of it, and that's, is it abrupt and is it somewhat controversial, what I suggest? I believe it is, but I also believe that each one of us in this room feel that we shouldn't be paying for somebody that opts out of it. And it also costs our insurance companies money, and which actually comes back to us because we already know that these folks are doing that. There's no loyalty, so they're jumping, they're just looking for, because of what it is. And if we don't start doing that, it goes back to our service level. I don't leave my insurance company for a couple bucks, I just don't. But you know what, I don't cancel after 30 days either and drive around on the road uninsured because I just wouldn't do it. It's like I wouldn't go into the woods without a hunting license if I'm gonna go hunt an animal. I just don't. Or go to the state park or wherever we go. If people are gonna violate, we're always gonna have some violators. We're always gonna have people that steal. We're gonna have people that don't do what they should do. But I think there's a lot more that wanna have coverage, that really make a choice right now. Do I put food on my table? Do I have, pay my rent so I have?
Do I
If we
get to
don't
work?
drive that cost back down, and the more people we get back on insurance that are uninsured right now, look at the dollars that go into a system that start paying for a system again. But insurance, let's just say you eliminated half of the people that are uninsured right now. That's new money that's in there that, under our no fault, we potentially have somebody taking advantage of it. It's gonna save us money. But we're gonna have to take some bold steps. It's not gonna make some people very happy if their license plate turned red. But if we don't do it, it's only gonna continue to grow. And that's my concern. And we're seeing that. And I don't know what you're seeing, but 23% is the number that we're being told in Lansing per year.
I would say it's pretty good. I know it's over 50 in Detroit, so.